In 1980, Suzanne Somers was the highest-rated female star on television. But when she asked for the same pay as her male co-star, ABC didn't just say no, they destroyed her. They forced her to film alone. They banned her from speaking to her co-stars. Then they fired her and dragged her name through the mud. The network later admitted they lost billions by breaking up the show. But the real story of why they were willing to lose so much money just to punish one woman has remained hidden. Until now. Suzanne Somers was born on October 16, 1946, in San Bruno, California, into a poor Irish Catholic family. She was the third of 4 kids. Her mother worked as a medical secretary. Her father did hard labor, loading beer, gardening, whatever paid the bills. But Frank Mahoney wasn't just tired from work. He was an alcoholic. And when he drank, the house turned dark. Suzanne grew up walking on eggshells. Nights were the worst. Her father would come home late, drunk, and yell for hours. She and her brother were so shaken, they wet the bed into their teens. That kind of fear gets into your bones. School was no escape. Suzanne had dyslexia, which made reading feel like climbing a wall. She was tired, distracted, and failing. At 14, she got expelled for writing flirty notes to a boy, notes that never even reached him. But even through all that, she had talent. On stage, she lit up. When she acted in her school's production of Guys and Dolls, a famous radio host watched and said, "You're going places, sister." It was the first time someone outside her family told her she was worth something. For once, she believed it. Then came a shock that changed everything. At 18, Suzanne went to college on a scholarship. 6 months in, she got pregnant from her very first time having sex. That moment ended her education and forced her into a life she wasn't ready for. She married Bruce Somers, the baby's father, but not out of love, out of fear and pressure. On her wedding night, she felt so hopeless. She later admitted she thought about ending her life. She gave birth to Bruce Jr. in November 1965. When she held her son, she promised him a better life. But she had no idea how to give him one. Her marriage fell apart fast. By 1967, it was over. Suzanne had an affair with her old drama teacher. Her small town whispered and judged. She was the unwed mother, now also the adulteress. At 21, she was divorced, broke, and raising a baby alone. Her choices got worse. She wrote a bad check for $250. It bounced. Months later, she was arrested. Her boyfriend paid her bail, and she promised to fix things. But it was clear she was dangerously close to losing everything. To survive, she took modeling jobs. Some were for small brands, some were nude. Years later, those photos came back to haunt her when she became famous. But she did what she had to do. She refused welfare. She pushed through. In 1971, her son was hit by a car and almost died. The medical bills were overwhelming. She got help from a therapist who charged her just $1 a week. That therapist told her, "You have the lowest self-esteem I've ever seen." And Suzanne believed it. But she also started to fight back. In 1968, Suzanne took a job as a model on The Anniversary Game, a small-time TV show. That's where she met host Alan Hamill. He was married. She was a single mom. But the attraction was instant. Their first date? She smoked pot for the first time, slept with him that same night, and later said it was the first time she ever went to a man's hotel room. The affair was risky. And then she got pregnant again, this time with Alan's baby. But abortion was illegal, and Alan was still married. They found someone to do it. It went wrong. She almost died. She bled for days and had no one to turn to. That experience left scars that never fully healed. It was 1971 when everything changed for Suzanne Somers. She was already juggling life as a struggling single mom, picking up small modeling jobs just to survive in San Francisco. But nothing could have prepared her for what happened one day when her 6-year-old son Bruce was hit by a car. The accident was brutal. His spleen and kidneys were crushed, and doctors told her he had only a 50-50 chance of making it. Bruce spent months in the hospital, going through surgeries and endless pain. But the damage wasn't just physical. After he came home, Bruce woke up crying from nightmares. He had night sweats and panic attacks. He was traumatized, and so was Suzanne. She was emotionally shattered and broke. Her whole world was collapsing. But somehow, that moment became the start of a different life. With no money and nowhere else to turn, she found help at a local mental health center in Marin County. They charged just $1 a week. It was supposed to be for Bruce, to help him heal from the trauma. But after a year, something unexpected happened. The therapist told Suzanne that Bruce was doing fine. It was she who needed help. That stunned her. Then came the real shock. The therapist told her she had the lowest self-esteem she'd ever seen in a person. Suzanne had never even asked herself if she liked who she was. That question shook her. It was the beginning of a long journey inward. Her therapist, Mrs. Kilgrave, became the guide she never had growing up. Week by week, Suzanne started to rediscover herself. She remembered how she used to love singing and acting, dreams she'd buried so deep she didn't even talk about them with her husband. Mrs. Kilgrave helped pull those dreams back out. For the first time, someone told her she was worth something, that she could be something. It was the kind of love and attention she never got as a kid in an alcoholic home. Her father's drinking had always taken center stage. The kids were just background noise. But now, for the first time, she was the focus, and it changed her life. Determined to try, Suzanne started chasing roles in Hollywood. But the early years were a mess. She was still broke, still raising Bruce alone, and the work was inconsistent. She took whatever roles she could get, TV, commercials, anything. It wasn't glamorous, and she had this bad habit. Every time she made a little money, she'd spend it recklessly. Not on luxuries, just things she didn't really need. It was a self-sabotage cycle she later realized came from her childhood. Growing up in chaos, she'd learned to feel more comfortable in disaster than in peace. But through all the mess, she kept going. Then came a strange but powerful break. A tiny part in American Graffiti in 1973. She played the mysterious blonde in a white Thunderbird. She had no lines, just looked out a car window and mouthed, "I love you." But somehow, that silent moment made an impact. People remembered her. The film became a huge hit, making over $100 million. And suddenly, Suzanne had a real credit to her name. She used it to push for more work. Slowly, the doors started to open. At the same time, she was facing hard truths at home. Her family, especially her siblings, had fallen into alcoholism, just like their dad. Suzanne made the painful decision to pull away. Her sister and brother were drinking heavily. The dysfunction was repeating itself. She didn't want Bruce growing up the way she had. She had to break the cycle. But that didn't mean she gave up on them. Years later, her sister got sober through AA. Then their mom joined Al-Anon. That eventually helped their father too. Healing rippled through the family, but only after Suzanne stepped away to save herself first. Then came the moment she was waiting for. It all happened in a rush. ABC had already shot 2 pilots for Three's Company, but something just wasn't working. The character of Chrissy Snow hadn't clicked. Time was running out. They were supposed to start filming the very next morning. And still, no actress had nailed the role. That's when Fred Silverman, the president of ABC Entertainment, decided to take one last desperate look through the rejected audition tapes. He fast-forwarded through tape after tape until suddenly something made him stop. There she was, Suzanne Somers. He'd seen her before on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. Curious, he rewound the tape and watched again. Then he said it out loud. She was great. She was great. And we passed on her. No one could explain why she'd been rejected. Silverman didn't wait. He called her in for a last-minute audition that same day. She showed up. She nailed it. The very next morning, she was on set. Just like that, Suzanne Somers became Chrissy Snow, a role she was never meant to play, but one that would change her life forever. At first glance, Chrissy Snow was the classic dumb blonde. But Somers didn't treat her like a joke. She gave Chrissy heart. She made her honest. She had a moral code, Somers once said. Chrissy never lied. She never stole anyone's boyfriend. She wasn't mean. She was pure and sweet. And that's what made people love her. Somers even crafted the way Chrissy moved and sounded. The laugh, the hair, the way she reacted. It was all part of the plan. And somehow, it stuck. Even decades later, people still dressed up as Chrissy for parades and parties. Somers had turned what could have been a silly role into something iconic. The crazy part is, Suzanne had no real acting training. She was learning everything on the job. Her classroom was the set of Three's Company, and her teachers were the show's producer, Michael Ross, and her co-star, John Ritter. Many trained actors didn't take her seriously. They didn't like that someone without a formal background was winning awards. But Somers didn't let that stop her. Ross taught her the basics: timing, delivery, how to land a laugh. And Ritter? He became her partner in crime. He helped her master physical comedy, especially in episodes like Handcuffed, where their chemistry was electric. Little by little, Somers turned herself into a real comedic actress, one who could hold her own with the best of them. Once the show aired in March 1977, things moved fast. Within a year, she had won the People's Choice Award for Favorite Female Performer. By 1979, she was nominated for a Golden Globe. Her face was everywhere, on magazines, on billboards, on TV screens in every home. People couldn't get enough of Chrissy Snow, and ABC knew it. By 1980, Somers had the highest ratings of any woman on television. She wasn't just famous, she was valuable. So valuable that when the network let her go, executives later admitted they lost billions by breaking up the show's chemistry. But by then, Somers had already made history. She'd gone from a barely known model to one of the biggest stars in the country, all in just 3 years. While her fame skyrocketed, her personal life was also taking a big turn. On November 19, 1977, she married Canadian TV host Alan Hamel. The wedding was unique, just like them, officiated by both a rabbi and a Catholic priest. But their love story didn't start smoothly. They first met in 1969 on the set of The Anniversary Game, where Hamel was hosting and Somers worked as a prize model. She was fired after one day. But Hamel wasn't ready to let her go. He found her number on some paperwork and called her. That call changed everything. Their first date? It broke every rule her mother gave her. She ended up in his hotel room. And yes, they slept together on that very first night, with space brownies in the mix. Their relationship wasn't easy. They fought a lot. Like dogs, Somers said. But she liked the fire. It worked for them. That same year they got married. They bought a house in Palm Springs and started building a life that would last through the chaos of Hollywood. By 1980, when the show entered its 5th season, she discovered something shocking. She was being paid just $30,000 per episode, while John Ritter, her male co-star, was reportedly earning $150,000. Even if some reports claimed Ritter made closer to $50,000, the gap was massive. At the center of her push for fair pay was her husband, Alan Hamill. He had once worked in TV himself and now acted as her manager. Just before the big contract negotiation, Hamill got a strange late-night phone call. Someone from the industry warned him, "They're going to hang a nun in the marketplace, and the nun is Suzanne." That eerie message didn't stop them. Hamill pushed forward, asking for a 400% raise and even a 10% share in the show's profits. It was bold, maybe too bold. ABC had just caved to high demands from the stars of Laverne and Shirley, and they weren't in the mood to deal with another round of negotiations. Instead of meeting in the middle, the network offered her just $5,000 more per episode. ABC had already decided what they were going to do. They weren't just going to say no, they were going to make an example out of her. What followed was humiliating. Even though she was still under contract for the rest of the season, ABC didn't let her film with the cast. Instead, they gave her tiny scenes, just 60-second phone calls, and filmed them separately. She wasn't allowed to talk to her co-stars. Police escorted her to and from the set like she was a criminal. It was meant to break her spirit. They wrote her character off the show, saying Chrissy had gone home to care for her sick mother. But behind the scenes, Somers was trapped in a job that now treated her like an outcast. She decided to fight back. After she was officially fired, Somers filed a $2 million lawsuit against ABC. She argued that they had not only broken her contract, but also damaged her reputation in Hollywood. The case dragged on, but in the end, she was awarded just $30,000. Payment for one missed episode. That was all. Her massive claim was rejected. The ruling made her look like a greedy star who had overplayed her hand, rather than a woman standing up for equal rights. It was a crushing loss, both publicly and personally. But Suzanne Somers didn't disappear. Instead of waiting for Hollywood to forgive her, she started over, on her own terms. Her husband convinced the MGM Grand to give her a shot in Las Vegas. She signed a 2-year deal to headline her own show. Then, in a cruel twist of fate, the MGM burned down. But she didn't give up. She performed at the Riviera, then was hired by the Las Vegas Hilton to revive their struggling Moulin Rouge show. The venue had been drawing under 200 people a night. Somers filled it. Not just a little, she packed it to capacity. Hilton himself was shocked. Her performances were flashy, high energy, and unforgettable. She had dancers, a full orchestra, and the confidence of someone who had nothing left to lose. In 1987, she was named Las Vegas Entertainer of the Year, next to Frank Sinatra. It was more than just a win. It was proof that she hadn't lost her touch. In 1987, she landed a new sitcom, She's the Sheriff. It told the story of a young widow who unexpectedly becomes sheriff in a small town. The show ran for 2 seasons, but never really connected with audiences. In fact, years later, it was named one of the worst shows of all time by TV Guide. Still, Suzanne didn't let that stop her. In 1988, she wrote a deeply personal memoir, Keeping Secrets. It told the story of growing up with an alcoholic father and a family that tried to hide the pain behind closed doors. The book struck a chord with many readers. Then, in 1991, ABC turned the story into a TV movie, with Suzanne playing herself. The film aired at a time when talking publicly about addiction was rare. Her bravery helped others speak up about their own struggles and shattered the dumb blonde image she'd been known for. Suddenly, people saw a new side of Suzanne, raw, real, and determined. That same year, her career took off again when she joined the ABC sitcom Step by Step. She played Carol Foster, a single mom who marries a single dad, played by Patrick Duffy. The blended family setup felt familiar, but it worked. Audiences loved it, and the show ran for 7 seasons. Suzanne's character was more grounded and complex than Chrissy Snow had been on Three's Company. Carol had a past, made mistakes, and had stories that pushed the network's comfort zone, like a flashback to dancing topless at Woodstock. ABC forced rewrites, but it showed Suzanne wasn't playing it safe anymore. Working on Step by Step also brought Suzanne close to her young co-stars. She formed real bonds with the kids on set, especially Stacey Keenan, Angela Watson, and Christine Lakin. Years later, at a cast reunion in 2024, Kianan shared how Suzanne once gave her Prada cashmere tights for Christmas. Not just stylish, but warm under long skirts. One moment that stood out for Angela Watson was a tap dance routine she did with Suzanne, which she called the highlight of her career. Suzanne also praised Keenan for becoming a successful lawyer, though she was saddened to learn, after the fact, about Watson's legal fight with her parents over money. In 1994, Suzanne tried something new, hosting her own daytime talk show. The Suzanne Somers Show featured celebrity guests and focused on topics like health and wellness. The idea sounded good on paper, but it didn't work. Competing with Oprah and other daytime giants was tough, and Suzanne later admitted she didn't enjoy fighting for airtime. The show was canceled after just 1 season. Still, she kept pushing forward. In 1998, she joined Peter Funt as co-host of a revived Candid Camera on CBS. It was a fun change of pace. The prank show gave her a chance to be herself instead of playing a scripted role. Audiences responded well, and she stayed with the show until 2001, when it moved to PAX and Dinah Eastwood took over. Though not her biggest hit, Candid Camera let Suzanne show her natural charm and comedic instincts in a fresh way. Suzanne Somers never planned to build a fitness empire, but one moment changed everything. In 1991, she had just bought a pair of expensive Manolo Blahnik heels and was nervous about telling her husband, Alan Hamill. Wearing nothing but her underwear, she showed him the shoes. Instead of scolding her, he said, "Great legs." That offhand comment sparked an idea. Soon after, Suzanne starred in a commercial for the Thigh Master, a spring-loaded workout device aimed at toning legs. The ad's catchphrase, "Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze your way to great hips and thighs," caught fire. People couldn't stop talking about it. The Thigh Master became an overnight success, selling 10 million units at $19.95 each almost instantly. Suzanne later said the number climbed to around 15 million, bringing in roughly $300 million. But it wasn't always smooth. Her business partners got greedy and careless with the money, so she and Alan bought them out and took full control. That move made her not just the face of the product, but the boss. They later introduced the Buttmaster, another home workout gadget, and by 2014, Suzanne had been inducted into the Direct Response Hall of Fame. In April 2000, Suzanne Somers got news no one ever wants to hear. She had breast cancer. The doctors found a 2.4-centimeter tumor deep in her breast. It wasn't spotted on her regular mammogram, but an ultrasound picked it up just in time. Suzanne believed that machine saved her life. She later said if she had waited until her next yearly checkup, it would have been too late. In a moment of dark humor, she told Larry King that it was ironic the woman known as the Queen of the Jiggle would end up with breast cancer. She thought being seen as a sex symbol might have led her to this moment for a reason. Maybe she was meant to speak out and help others. After the diagnosis, she had a lumpectomy. The surgery removed so much tissue that it was almost like a mastectomy. Then came radiation therapy. But when her doctors pushed for chemotherapy, Suzanne said no. They warned she could die without it, but she stood firm. Chemotherapy didn't match who she was, she said. She didn't want to flood her body with chemicals. Instead, she turned to alternative treatments. One of them was a mistletoe extract called Iscador, which she imported from Switzerland and took for years. It wasn't approved in the United States, but she believed it helped boost her immune system. This decision caused a lot of backlash. In 2009, she published Knockout, a book filled with interviews from doctors who supported alternative cancer treatments. The American Cancer Society slammed it as dangerous and misleading. Some doctors said they knew women who skipped chemo because of her advice and died. But Suzanne didn't back down. She saw cancer as a strange blessing, a wake-up call that pushed her to challenge the medical system and rethink her life. Then, in 2007, she faced another blow. A wildfire roared through Malibu and destroyed her beachfront home. She and her husband, Alan Hamill, weren't home at the time, but the fire wiped out everything. The winds were fierce, and the flames moved fast. Other stars in the area tried to protect their homes. Victoria Principal reportedly soaked hers in water, but Suzanne's house was lost. Still, she stayed positive. She said, "We'll rebuild," and reminded people she hadn't lost a child or a loved one. They didn't rebuild right away, though. The land sat empty for nearly 10 years before they sold the lots in 2016 for over $12 million. Eventually, a developer built a sleek mansion there that sold in 2021 for around $40 million. Around 2012, Suzanne made headlines again for something that sounded like science fiction. She regrew her breast using her own stem cells. After being without one for 11 years, she became the first person in a United States trial to try this technique. The procedure involved removing fat from her body through liposuction, separating the strongest stem cells, and injecting them into the area with something she jokingly called a turkey baster. Over the next year, she could actually feel her body building blood vessels and tissue. When it was done, she had a fully formed, natural-feeling breast again. She called it a miracle. Politically, Suzanne didn't follow the crowd. In 2012, she said she was an independent voter who chose candidates, not parties. But over time, her views leaned more conservative. In 2014, she criticized the Obama administration as the most divisive she'd ever seen. She knew her opinions weren't popular in Hollywood and said people there often stayed silent if they didn't agree with the mainstream. By 2018, she openly supported President Trump and said the economy was doing better. She joked that her support probably meant her career was over. A former Trump legal advisor even claimed she lost a friendship with Barry Manilow over it, though Manilow later said they were still friends. When she passed in 2023, Trump wrote that she was strong, kind, and loved America. In her later years, Suzanne kept working. She built a wellness brand that started with the Thigh Master and grew into a line of clean beauty and health products. She partnered with global companies in 2023 to sell her products in duty-free shops, on cruise lines, and on major airlines. Her shift to chemical-free living was inspired by her cancer diagnosis. It became her mission. She wrote 27 health books, many of them bestsellers. Her husband Alan co-ran the business with her and said interest in her products had only grown. In 2012, she made peace with someone from her past, Joyce DeWitt, her co-star from Three's Company. They hadn't spoken in over 30 years, not since Suzanne left the show in 1981 during a bitter contract dispute. She had asked for a raise to match her male co-star, John Ritter, but was fired instead. When Joyce came on her web show, the two hugged and laughed. Suzanne apologized, saying she saw the show as a business opportunity at a time when she needed money. Joyce admitted she didn't understand that back then, as she was more focused on the craft. They ended the feud by remembering their friend John Ritter, who had passed away years earlier. In July 2023, Suzanne posted on Instagram that her cancer had returned. She said it had come back a few times over the years, but she always fought it off. Still, the news hit hard. She later shared that hearing, "It's back," gave her a sinking feeling. She went through 6 weeks of intense therapy in the Midwest, showing incredible strength even as her health worsened. She had been dealing with other issues too: a broken neck from a fall in 2020, and a brain condition called hydrocephalus that required surgery. By October, she was mostly unresponsive, but her husband said she still kissed him back when he kissed her. On October 15, 2023, Suzanne Somers died peacefully at home in Palm Springs. It was one day before her 77th birthday. Her family had gathered to celebrate her birthday, not to say goodbye, but that's what it became. The official cause of death was breast cancer that had spread to her brain. She was buried 3 days later at Desert Memorial Park. Her husband gave her a personal touch. She was laid to rest wearing Timberland hiking boots, decorated with drawings and love notes from him. A month later, friends and family held a tequila and tributes event to celebrate her life.